Hello, welcome to Spotlight, an optimistic glow of colour and creativity.
Spotlight, brought to you by the Isle of Man Arts Council.
This week, we hear about an exciting trip for Manx singer Ruth Keggin-Gell. Speak to the new Biosphere Artist in Residence, Ali Hodgson. And hear more from the Arts Council's Jane Corkle about their student loans for the year 23-24. Remember, do get in touch with any creative artistic endeavours you might be involved in, planning, hoping to create, or would really like to put in that spotlight. You know the list. I'll go through it anyway. Poetic, visual, theatrical, musical, literary, mime, ceramics. There must be others I don't even know of. Email spotlight@manxradio.com. Straight to me, Howard Kane @manxradio.com. Film, we didn't mention them, did we? But we might do in the next week or two. Well, for this evening, we'll start where we left off last week, when we were hearing about the latest round of Isle of Man Arts Council funding. Yes, you can apply for your artistic endeavours if you want. Go online to the Arts Council site and find out more. Well, while I was down at the Arts Council headquarters and speaking to Arts Development Manager Jane Corkle, she also told me how the council has increased their student bursary schemes for the forthcoming year.
The Arts Council have 3 annual student bursaries that they award, each for £10,000, and that's to go to a student over the duration of a course. But this year, in the last couple of years, we've noticed that the standard of the students and their applications has been really high. And the Arts Council made the decision this year to actually award 6 bursaries rather than just the 3. So for the first time, we've got 6 recipients. And so we have an award for performing arts, we have an award for visual art and literature, and we have another award which is called the Arts Council Award. And we give that to a student students who for various reasons are in situations which may preclude them continuing their studies. So that's very much a support bursary. So yes, we had 6 great recipients this year.
Talk us through a couple of them, because one caught my eye straight off, because I don't even totally understand what she's doing. It's Ruth Tickle, who's doing an MA in voice pedagogy.
Well, Ruth is, in politeness to Ruth, a mature student.
Nothing wrong with that?
No, I hope she won't mind me saying that. But Ruth is a singing teacher by profession, and she is undertaking a course in voice pedagogy. So she's going away to learn about voice development in young people in particular, which obviously she then wants to bring into her own teaching, but also just on the island. We have a lot of very young singers and a lot of young singers in choirs, various things going on in the Isle of Man. We bat above our average on that level. So Ruth is hoping to bring specific skills that maybe there aren't on the island about voice development.
Which is good. And Josephine Lazeney is looking at something perhaps we don't hear quite so much about on the arts. Fashion design, as you say, we punch way above our weight in music and drama and the performing arts, but things like perhaps the creative industries like fashion, maybe you don't hear quite so much.
Well, we do. As an island, obviously, we've produced various fashion designers who design on a world stage, such as Preen, who've designed for the Princess of Wales and other such very high-level sort of, well-known people. But this year we've got actually 2 awards that went to students, both studying fashion, Josie Lazeney and Lucia Prince. So fashion, I know that they're both students from UCM, and up at UCM that they are very strong in fashion. They're very strong in art generally. They have a fantastic art department up there, and both these young ladies have quite considerable talent within fashion, and so hopefully the awards will enable them to go on and further that development and keep on bringing fashion forward in the Isle of Man.
Oh, we hope so. Is it something, do you try to get a spread through the arts, or do you have to sort of work with who's applied, as it were?
Well, obviously there's an element of that. All the schools know about the bursaries and encourage students to apply. And the way we do it is that each of the council members look at all the awards, and they matrix score those awards, and we come out with with the eventual recipients who've scored the highest. So it is deliberate, but it's not deliberate. There's a lot of discussion and consideration that goes into it, really.
And if anyone's listening, and maybe thinking next year or in years to come, it's something that might be of interest to them, how do they get involved, or how do they go about actually applying for these?
So every year, at the beginning of May, we open the funding for the student bursaries, and the students simply go onto the Isle of Man Arts Council website. There's an area for the student bursaries, and they can submit their applications that way. And nearer the time, we put information out on our social media, probably come and talk to you a bit more about it, out of my newspaper, all as far and as wide as we can get it. And even over the course of the year, if the students listening to this and they want to just come and have a chat to us about the procedure and how they go about applying and what we look for in a good application that's going to be successful, then by all means get in touch. We're here, we're happy to chat.
And do the students tend to come back, or do you encourage them to come back and tell you how it's going, how the course is going, get involved back on the island still?
Yeah, absolutely we do. We love to hear how they're getting on their course. And for many reasons, but often their stories are really inspirational to other students who are perhaps thinking about, I could study that, or I could study this, and then they see the students that we're supporting and they say, that is a viable option for me, because look, there's somebody that's doing this already. So yes, we do feature them. Ali, our arts engagement officer, likes to email them and ask how they're doing and ask them some questions. And they are always really great to feed back to us.
Good luck to them all, and we look forward to hearing from them, we hope, in future programmes.
Spotlight, brought to you by the Isle of Man Arts Council.
The Isle of Man has a new UNESCO Manx Wildlife Trust Biosphere Artist in Residence, now in post. That's a mouthful. Ali Hodgson has recently taken over from the wonderful Claire Payne, who was the inaugural AIR. That's a bit easier, and has set the bar high for her successor, but I'm sure she'll reach it. Ali dropped into the Spotlight studio to have a chat about her new role, and I began by asking her how she'd come to take on the role of Artist in Residence for the Biosphere in the first place.
So I saw it initially advertised. It was a year ago when the last year when Claire Payne got it, and as soon as I saw it, I thought, that's something that I really want to do. I had a very busy year that year, so I couldn't apply, but then reapplied this year when I saw it advertised, and I managed to get it, which is fantastic.
And you're an artist already. There's something, and it's sort of just nature and the environment, something that's always inspired you anyway?
It is, yeah. So I actually grew up in the Scottish Highlands, so surrounded by nature, and I think you can't help but be informed by nature when you're living that close to it. And then growing up and becoming an artist, a designer, it's just something that's always really informed my practice and inspired me. And so for me, this residency is fantastic because it brings together so many things that I was already interested in.
So what are you actually hoping to do with it? Because I suppose, is it a blank canvas? Are there certain things that you are obliged or asked to do within the role?
Yeah, so obviously there's going to be lots of artwork, but it's very much people-focused as well, and very much about engaging people, helping them connect with nature, inspiring them as well. So for me, some of the themes that I wanted to look at with the residency are looking at things around interconnectivity and regenerative culture, and kind of looking at this current movement that we have towards sustainability, but taking it a bit beyond that current narrative. I'm really interested in concepts around regenerative design, but also I really want to focus on what's around us, the unique plants and animals and flora and fauna that we have around us here on the island as well.
And we are spoiled for that, I suppose, because the island, even though it's a small place, there's just such a myriad of different aspects of life and nature and the environment that we could go at, really.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's such an amazing place, and I really hope to inspire people to, explore their relationship with nature, because there's so much of it around us. But also I really want to kind of be quite vulnerable and honest and open about my relationship with nature and how I want to explore that through the residency and share that on social media, for example, and, walk my talk as well.
So how would you describe your own art then?
Yeah, so I've had a very varied career. I've a lot of it has been involved with commercial illustration, graphic design, that kind of thing. But I've always had a kind of real passion for ecology, ecological design, design thinking, that kind of thing. So really looking at how, we can lead with our values as artists and designers. And for me, that's very much rooted in wanting to use the skills that I have to serve people and planet, whether that's through things like doing this residency or working for organisations that are kind of pushing the boundaries and what's happening out there with these issues. So I've done a lot of different things in a lot of different places, but it's a real privilege to be able to do this here now in the place that I call home, and obviously collaborating with the Manx Wildlife Trust and UNESCO Biosphere Isle of Man as well, because I'm really passionate about the work that they do anyway. So it's a brilliant opportunity.
And what do you understand? Because again, the biosphere, we often talk about it. So for you, what does the Isle of Man biosphere or Biosphere Isle of Man actually mean? Yeah,
it's a word we throw about a lot, and I mean, for me, it's not just the individual components that make up that biosphere. It's about understanding the complexity in the systems and the interconnections within that biosphere as well. And obviously, part of that is nature and the flora and fauna that we have here. But it's us as well, and we're part of those systems, our economies, our social systems, our communities. And to me, the biosphere kind of encapsulates all of those things together, and the complexity and the beauty and the challenges that are a big part of that.
And do you think you'd be able to use your art to sort of illustrate or tell the story of the biosphere?
I hope so. I mean, it's definitely a daunting challenge, but I think one of the fantastic things about art is that it's this vehicle for asking questions. It's a vehicle for being curious and telling stories as well, and perhaps influencing the narratives that we tell ourselves about the world that we live in and the place that we're in. I also think, telling stories through art is a really fantastic way to build empathy. What's it like to be a farmer here on the Isle of Man? What's it like to be a wild orchid growing in the wilderness? It's that might sound strange, but I think such a great way to build empathy and influence people and inspire people as well.
So do you think your sort of work as a graphic designer helps in this area? Because I think, did you do some of the work on the net zero campaign?
I did.
Yeah, there. So I suppose that's a good starting point in a way of having that sort of link already. Do you think it helps with that graphic design background from the storytelling point of view of having pictures which actually convey a meaning and a message?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I kind of operate as an artist and a designer. So I think what's very useful about design is applying art to different purposes and being able to communicate visually or otherwise, especially difficult, challenging and complex topics. And obviously sustainability, the environment, the biosphere, there's a lot of complexity in those topics. And how do you help people perhaps connect with these things? I've always thought that, artists almost act like a bit of a bridge between different worlds. And, if, for example, having fantastic conversations with the ecologists at Manx Wildlife Trust and, how can I take their amazing knowledge and understanding of our environment and then translate that in a way that people are going to understand and connect with and relate with as well. So it's a fantastic, unique challenge.
And have you had a chance to talk to your predecessor about what she sort of got out of the role and how she approached it?
I have, yeah. So Claire's fantastic, and she really threw herself into the whole year and has been incredibly kind and generous in sharing her knowledge and expertise that she gathered through that year. I feel very lucky that I'm not the first, but also I'm very excited to kind of explore the year and make my own mark with it, but also see what the residency wants from me as well. It's all very well for me to say what I think it should be, but I know that through collaborating with people that there's going to be all kinds of interesting things coming up that we didn't expect, and finding ways to respond to that as an artist is going to be fantastic.
And so it's very much about working, as you say, there's this educational aspect, this storytelling aspect, and it's bringing art into the community as well, because I think they quite often certainly from Claire's work in the previous year, it's sometimes getting art out into different areas, not just sort of going to a gallery or looking at a website or such like.
Absolutely, yeah. I think one of the aims for this residency is to help engage people that maybe don't normally engage with these topics. So that's a huge challenge. And we've got all kinds of things that we're plotting and scheming to do over the next year. But for example, one of the things that I really wanted to do is to create a very simple family game that people can use to play, and introducing some of these ideas around ecology and interconnection and regenerative design, but in a really fun way that just helps people engage with the plants and the animals that we have here as well. So yeah, it's definitely a challenge, but I think art again is such a fantastic tool for communicating these issues, and it's not just about conveying the intellectual kind of ideas behind this, but it's connecting people's hearts as well and their imaginations, and I think that's why art can be so powerful.
Is there anything within the world of nature which really pushes your buttons and really sort of gets you excited?
Yeah, that's a really difficult question, because I'm so passionate about so many different aspects of that, and for me, what I've kind of realised stepping into this residency is the excitement that I have for using this as an excuse to connect even more with that. It's all very well me sitting in an office working on these international projects, on climate change, but what about where I actually live, and really exploring and getting to know the amazing environment and plants and animals that inhabit my actual community around my house even. So yeah, for me it's about really connecting and seeing what that nature has to show me as well. I really want to not pretend that I have any of the answers to any of this, and sit down and listen and see what I have to learn. So
if people want to find out more about your work or what's going on, is there a website or any places they can go to find out what's happening?
Yeah, so people can follow me on my own social media. So if you search for Ali Hodgson, that's ALIHODGSON _design. I'm on Facebook and Instagram and all that kind of thing. But also the Manx Wildlife Trust as well are a great organisation to follow. They're going to be sharing some of the journey of this as well. And also if there's any local businesses or corporate partners that might be interested in supporting the project as well, we'd love to hear from people. There's all kinds of ways that we're looking for support, whether that's sponsorship or just space or collaboration or expertise. So if what we've been talking about does pique anyone's interest, then please do get in touch, either with me directly or with the Manx Wildlife Trust. That would be brilliant.
Best of luck to Ali in a new position. More than up to it, I'm certain. She won't need that look from me. We'll try and catch up with her a couple of times during her year in residence to see what she's been up to. Finally this evening, as we speak, well-known local Manx singer and Manx language tutor Ruth Keggin-Gell is en route, well, at least the way she should be, you never know these days, to Canada to sing, in Manx Gaelic of course, in duo format at a sizable gathering known as the International Celtic Colours. I dropped by Culture Vannon's HQ to hear more just before she set off.
I'm playing with Rachel Hare, who's from Scotland but is well known on the Isle of Man in the musical circles for her teaching of the harp, and she also flies the Manx flag all over the world wherever she goes. Really, she does a lot of teaching harp, Manx harp music and things like that. So we've been playing in a duo now for a few years now, but we released our first album last year in 2022, so we're heading out. We've been booked to play at this festival. Really excited.
I suppose, again, I don't instantly think of Celts and Canada.
Well, it's interesting that actually, because Nova Scotia, where the festival's taking place, Celtic Colours International Festival, has Gaelic speakers, Scottish Gaelic speakers there, and I believe it was called Nova Scotia before people actually emigrated from Scotland to go and live there, which is really interesting. You'd think that the name would come after the fact it got settled by lots of Scottish people, but no, apparently before. And there are even still people who are 11th generation Scottish Gaelic speakers there, because they really retained and held on to their culture. So although there's not a huge amount of Gaelic speakers there are still native Gaelic speakers around, and you think it's actually lasted hundreds of years in that part of the world. It's pretty amazing. So we're actually going to be staying in the Gaelic College on Cape Breton. That's where we're going to be located in terms of our accommodation. But it's a huge area as Nova Scotia. It's going to take us about 5 hours to drive from the airport where we're going to get into Halifax to where we're staying. And then, each gig is sort of a 2-hour drive away, and it's across the whole of Nova Scotia, this festival. Well, it's across the whole of Cape Breton, this whole festival. So it's really spread out. But yeah, it's quite a good, strong Celtic culture there.
And the festival, as you say, you're hinting at there, is spread out and quite sizable, I think, as well. Is it the actual in terms of the numbers performing?
It's a really prestigious festival. It's one that both Rachel and I have wanted to play for an awful long time. I mean, I think I've heard about it about 20 years ago and thought, oh, I want to sing there. Yeah. Even before I was really singing, that was a dream of mine to go there. And so this is fantastic to be there. So they really do book. They do book a lot of artists over the course of the festival, but they also book very, well-known artists. So we're going to be sharing the stage with some incredible people. And we're actually in the opening night of the whole festival, which is a real coup for Manx language as well, because I'll be singing in Manx, of course.
I was just going to say that. I suppose that's the great thing of spreading the word, and that you'll be singing Manx and presumably other Celtic languages being represented there as well.
Yes, so the whole festival has a big theme on languages this year. So 2022 to 2032 is the United Nations Decade of Indigenous Languages. So they have this whole sort of celebration for a decade. And the festival is actually paying homage to this celebration this year as well. So we're singing and playing in the opening concert, which is called the Universal Language, and the idea is that music is the universal language understood across the world. And so actually we'll hear Manx, we'll hear Welsh, Scottish Gaelic, of course, but there's also, and I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce it, I'm going to try and find out when I get there so I don't make any boo-boos, but there's an Indigenous language spoken by the First Nation peoples of that area as well, which I think is something like Nick Moore or something, but it's probably pronounced slightly differently to that. And other languages as well, including French too, actually. Of course, French is spoken very widely in Canada. So, so it'll be fantastic to be part of that.
And it is very exciting as well, I suppose, as you said, music is a universal language. So even though you have that spread of different Celtic languages, the wonderful thing is you bring large groups of musicians together and there is that common language which everyone understands.
Absolutely. And Celtic Colours is really big on promoting collaborations as well. So they have a festival club that takes place in the evenings as well. We're not going to be able to do too many of those because the way that our gigs work is that we play on the Friday night and then we do Saturday and Sunday, and they're both afternoon gigs. So we're going to be up very early to have to travel to go and do the sound checks. We're leaving, I think, 7:30 every morning on the Saturday and Sunday. So no late nights for us. But anyway, so they have festival clubs, and apparently backstage they have like a green room where they do lots of collaborations where people will just pick up and start jamming, which really appeals to me. I think perhaps even, the idea of the transatlantic sessions, which used to take place on the telly years ago, I think that might have been born through those sorts of ideas. And certainly I find getting a musical chemistry with somebody else, it's just one of the nicest feelings when you start jamming together and you make something together. It's really kind of sort of musical alchemy, really.
It is truly a magic. So 3 sets, 3 sets in total you're playing?
Yeah, so 3 concerts in total, yeah. So the opening night is quite short because there's loads of different bands taking place in that. So we've actually only got 12 minutes in the first night. So we've got to really use those 12 minutes to show what we can do. But there are other bands such as Blazing Fiddles and Le Vent du Nord, who are like massive in the scene, really, that I'm very, very excited to be sharing the stage with them. So it's really, it's really, really great. And it's an opportunity. That is a televised gig as well. So it'll be filmed and to several thousand people. So it's really an opportunity to take Manx and show people it, because apparently, according to the festival director, it's the first time it's ever going to be featured there as as song. And it's been running for 49 years. So this is the 49th year. So it's really exciting. It's quite nerve-wracking as well. I'm not going to lie on that one, but I feel, I think it's important. And so many people have this real emotional connection to language through music, and some people come to learn it because they've heard the music, So I feel that that's a real great way to get into the language for people.
Sounds pretty exciting, eh? One day St John's, the next Nova Scotia. All in a week's work for Ruth Keggin-Gell. I hope all her travel arrangements go to plan. You can never take it for granted these days. That's about it for this week. Don't forget, if you want to hear anything again, go to manxradio.com, download the Spotlight podcast, listen where and when you want. Why not try it whilst getting the ingredients together for your Christmas pudding? See you next week. Until then, look after yourselves, and whatever you're doing, be creative about it. Cheerio.